Hey Internet, I'm Chris, and this is a place on the internet where I talk about comics, movies, games, and things I'm generally passionate about. So today we're talking about Uncanny X-Men #1. This is from Marvel, from their From the Ashes line. You have Gail Simone on script, plot, and then you have David Marquez on art. From the Ashes is picking up from the Krakoa era, which fell, and to be honest, when it got to the end of Krakoa, a lot of people weren't necessarily happy because it didn't live up to the potential and the excitement of Hoxpox, House of X, Powers of X, which is probably one of the greatest X-Men comics of all time and also a great jumping on point for a lot of fans. I'm sure there's a lot of people that got into the X-Men just based on that, and is one of those series that there's always a turning point even when it's stale. You had Hoxpox, you had Grant Morrison's new X-Men, you had Uncanny X-Men. There's always an era I feel people will really jump on with the X-Men. And hopefully I think people were hoping this new From the Ashes would be that. And it's not all to a blazing start. X-Men from Jed McKay and Ryan Stegman. I read that. To be honest, it was pretty bad. I like both creators, and it just didn't hit for me. I like Ryan Stegman's art, but for some reason, seeing Cyclops, he looks like a kid in it, and I didn't know if that was a story thing. And when I read the book, I just couldn't follow what was going on. To be fair, I didn't keep up with Krakoa, so I thought like, hey, like maybe I'm mixing up some things or I'm missing some context. I was like, yeah. But the good thing about Marvel when they relaunch, as they always do every couple months, they overdo it. So there's a bunch of new X titles, and with this one, you have Uncanny X-Men #1, and with a creative team like Gail Simone and David Marquez, I was like, you know what, let me give it a shot, despite the fact I didn't really like that first impression of From the Ashes. You have some other titles that are out, like X-Force from Jeffrey Thorne. You have NYX. I haven't read those, but this is the one I was the most excited about because the team consists of Gambit, Rogue, Wolverine, Nightcrawler. All people that are really hot now because of X-Men '97, and you just had Deadpool and Wolverine. So does it live up to sort of the potential of what this new relaunch was supposed to? And I have to say, I really like this book. It was exactly what I needed. It was completely different from what that X title was with Stegman and McKay. I immediately followed it. I was really invested in the emotional journey told from the perspective of Rogue. There's some really great moments between Rogue and Gambit. Wolverine is awesome. There's some big action. They fight a dragon, and there's some quaint moments where you have the X team visiting you, and that is terminally ill. And it's a great moment that really highlights what makes the X-Men great. They're outsiders. They're always kind of figuring out where home is. And it really lives up to that idea of the fall of Krakoa. Like, hey, these are mutants that, they felt they were living the dream, and that dream is gone. So where do they find themselves? And Gail Simone does a great job of making sure that every character you care about, there's emotional stakes. Obviously, it's big because you have that big dragon fight, while also teasing the possibilities in the future. And the future is at the very beginning. You see Xavier's school, and it's being torn down and turned into a prison. There's a prisoner. We don't know who prisoner #1 is, but you can kind of guess or sort of think about the possibilities. So it was exciting, and I liked it. But, and I don't want to spoil too many things. I'll show some like panels as I edit this and stuff like that. But there was one thing, and it has been all over the internet a little bit, and I was like, oh, it's probably overblown and stuff. So I read this book digitally, and the reason I did that was because I was like, oh, I'll get it physically, but let me just buy it in Comixology so I could read it in Kindle, so I could review it and put it on the channel. And I was like, oh, I'm sure the QR code thing that was in the news not too long ago was overblown, and if I buy this book digitally, there won't be a QR code. There was a fucking QR code. and the QR code took me to Marvel's website. So I'm going out of the digital reader, the Kindle that I'm in, to go into another place to read a page. I was so frustrated, and to scan that QR code, I had to screenshot the page, open it in my photos, open it, and to be honest, I can't do this. This is fucking stupid. And I get the intent. You want to drive people to digital. You want to bring that engagement around that platform. Great. I understand the intent, but the execution is terrible. And they need to stop this. They need to get rid of it. I'm sure they've heard the backlash and stuff like that. I won't get into like, oh, they're replacing the last page in the comic. It's supplemental things, but something that really took me out of the comic, at least digitally, and I'm gonna grab it physically to see if this is the same thing. But the flow was a little weird just because in some key moments I felt like they had like these inserts talking about the other X books, which, as I've said, I'm not really that interested in, even though I really like this one. And then you had that QR code, which completely pissed me off. I had a good time, as you've heard me talking about this book. I had a good time reading it, and then I got to that page, and I was like, "That's weird." I bought this digitally. Why do I need the QR code? And I thought like I would turn the or swipe to the next page, and what I needed to see would be there, and it wasn't. So it pissed me off, and then almost made me go, I hate this book. But despite all that, it actually is a really great book. It's a great number one, a jumping on point. Obviously, it's great if you have context of who the X-Men are, because some of the moments really rely on that in terms of the relationship between Rogue and Gambit, Wolverine's struggles, also Kurt and his fate. There's a lot of that, and Gale does a really good job of infusing that history. And with all the hype around X-Men 97, the mutants coming to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, this is the kind of book that really can bring some new readers in. And obviously the intent of doing From the Ashes was to invoke a lot of those emotions from the 90s series and stuff. That's why they're back to being superheroes versus being on an island isolated. But I feel like this is the one book I've only read two, but this is of the sort of main like X-Men team books. This is the one that really feels like if you have someone that is coming off the hype of X-Men 97 or seeing Gambit in Deadpool and Wolverine, this is the book you want to recommend. Uncanny X-Men #1 by Gail Simone and David Marquez, out today. Read it. Let me know what you think. Also, please let me know what you think about that whole QR code situation, because I thought it was just, people on the internet talking shit, which it kind of is. It was overblown. Like, hey, the last page of the comic is there. It is supplemental, but it does make you, like, takes you out of the whole experience of reading the book, which is frustrating. And especially when it's something good, it's like, hey, like, this is a layup. This could have been a fantastic way to relaunch, from the Cocoa era, From the Ashes, and then you just throw in this dumb controversy and you fuel a lot of online discussion around something like this. Because even for me, I try not to get involved in those things. I was like, damn, the book is digital. Why? Well, let me know what you think. Peace.